Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. I I pray everyone's Eid was joyous and blessed, inshallah. So, alhamdulillah, we had a few weeks break. So we'll review the makharij briefly, very briefly. Yes, thank you. You as well. So we'll review the makharij briefly and then we'll go to the sifat. So this week, next week, we'll focus heavily on the sifat. And then, inshallah, the final 2 weeks we will do practice with everything we learn. So if I go back to the beginning, no. So remember these four letters. Huh? Zai, Zal, Va, and Dad. These letters, many people just pronounce as the letter Z. But there's difference, and this is how they look. So the first one, Za, that's the closest to the letter Z. Za. إذا زلزلت. Za. Next one is Dha. Dhal. So والذاريات. إذا جاء. إذا. So it's not Iza, it's إذا. You stick out the tongue a little bit, right? إذا. Remember the makhraj of the Dhal. We'll review the makhraj, but Dha. Next one is Dha. Dha, Dha, same makhraj. But Dha is heavy. Means it has a different attribute, different sifat. And we'll talk about the sifat. That's where we learn the difference. If you have letters that have the same makhraj, but they sound different, that's because of the sifa. So Dha, Dha. Dha, we call it light. We describe light. And Dha, heavy. Light and heavy. And the last one, Da, Dad, right? Sad, Dad. Makhraj is the side of the tongue. Very difficult makhraj. And it's also heavy. So it's not Da, it's Da. Huh? So also sometimes people pronounce Da as Za. Like you say Damin, they say Zamin. Or yeah, there's other words. Yeah, wala dallin. Someone say wala zallin. So this is that one. And it's different than dal. Right? Dal. That's like the letter D almost, but makhraj is a little different. Da. Okay. Yes. This one. No problem. Okay. Does anyone remember how many makharij there are? 17. Yeah, 17 makharij. So let's briefly go through them. 17 makharij divided into 5 parts of the mouth and the throat, etc. Right? So we have the Jof. Jof had which letters? Anyone remember? Yeah, Alif, Waw, Ya. A, I, U. The mad, right? Then the throat had 6 letters. Bottom of the throat, middle of the throat, top of the throat. Tongue had 18 letters. All the way from the back, middle, side, tip of the tongue. Lips had how many letters? 4. What are they? Yes. So fa. Fa is with teeth, upper teeth, and then the bottom lip. Fa. Then you have ba, both lips. Mim, both lips. Waw, both lips, but they don't touch. Wow. That's it, 4. And then the nasal cavity or the nose. Right? Nose is gunna. It's not a letter, but it's the sound when you do ikhfa or gunna, right? When you hold it. Inna. Inna. Right? So this is the Jawf. Right? This is all review. Yeah, okay. Remember the haraka. A, U, right? U. for dhamma, oo. And then for kasra, e. Instead of e, e. Amanna bi. Yes. Yes, yeah. Yes, yes, exactly, yeah. 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 So instead of alhamdo, you want to say do. And then just hear the letters of the throat. Hamza, ha, ayn, ha, ghayn, kha. Then back of the tongue, qaf. In front of that, kaf. Qaf and kaf, very close makhraj, but also one is heavy, one is light. Right? Which one is heavy? Qaf, qa. And then kaf, ka. Then the middle of the tongue, right? Jim, sheen, ya. Side of the tongue, right? The dad. And so we'll practice this next towards the end. A little more practice so we can get hang of it. Da, right? You don't want to pronounce it from the tip and say da, da. You don't want to use your lips. Say da, right? Da. Lips are not being engaged. Side, da. See, just another visual. The green area, that's where the makhraj of the dad is. You don't use the yellow part. The yellow part is for the lam. La. Right? Right? La ilaha illallah. This was the book that I mentioned. It will go hand in hand with this course. If you want, you can read and review. Very simple, plain English um, by Qari Salim Ghimbi. Okay, alhamdulillah. Yes, inshallah, after this I'll also send, alhamdulillah, it's great to hear. Yeah, okay. Wa yakum. Yes, yes. No, definitely. Yes, alhamdulillah. Continue practicing, definitely. Inshallah, that's the goal, right? The goal is practice. Yes, yeah. hmm Yes, yeah. hmm Yes. So for those who didn't hear, a good suggestion or tip is to record yourself and listen to it, listen to recordings. Yes, it's very helpful. Mm. Oh, mashallah. Yeah, I saw one app that is not Tajweed related. It's language, but I'm looking for something that's yeah. Thank you. Okay, now we have noon, right? You see the tip of the tongue touching up, little bit in front of the lam, and then in front of that is the ra. Lam, noon, ra, very close together. And then you have the different teeth. Now you get to those letters which engage both the tongue and the teeth. So most of them engage these incisors, the front teeth. And one letter, dad, it engages the molars. So these three letters have the same makhraj. Ta, dal, ta. Same exact makhraj. The tip of the tongue touching the upper teeth, the upper incisors. Where they differ, what causes the different sound is the sifa. Then you have, I'll go back. I must have skipped the slide. It's not here. Tip of the tongue with upper central incisor where they meet the gums. So this should be for dha. Yeah, sorry, the picture doesn't match. I'll fix that after. But dha, dhal, and tha. These three letters, same makhraj. Tha, dha, dha. Right? For example, these words. Then finally you have sad, sin, and za. Sa, sin, and za from the tip of the tongue, and it touches the upper edge of the bottom teeth. S, z, s. And you put the teeth together. Put the teeth together, touch the tongue to the top of the bottom teeth. S. Okay. Yeah, this is the yeah, for dha, dhal, and tha, right? Yeah. Yeah. So she was asking for go over the makhraj of these letters, dha, dhal, and tha. And I'm sorry, the picture doesn't match it. I'll fix that, like I said. But this is dha, dhal, and tha. Tip of the tongue touches the upper teeth where they meet the gums. So sorry, that's for ta. Sorry, yeah, sorry. Yeah, sorry. The slides are a little bit need to fix it. The dha, dhal, and tha. The tip of the tongue touches the bottom of the upper teeth. You know, like when you say the, you almost see the tongue. The, dha, tha. You don't need to stick out the tongue so much, but it should touch here. Tha, tha, tha. Okay, so that was a good review. Any question on the makharij? Okay, let's get right into the sifat. So sifa in Arabic means attribute. Right? We have in Urdu, right? Sifat or sifat. So these are the qualities, attributes, which are specific to each letter. And you can divide the categories into permanent qualities and temporary qualities or attributes, right? So some attributes are always with the letter. And some attributes, sometimes they're with the letter and sometimes they're not with the letter. Maybe depending on the haraka, if it's fatha, dhamma, kasra, or sukoon, or different things could make or sometimes if you're stopping on a letter, it may get a temporary sifa or not. So in this class, we will focus on permanent letters. In the future, maybe if we can organize a class, then we can go through the temporary, but the main attributes will focus on the permanent. There are 17 permanent qualities. 17. Just like makharij, there's 17, there's also 17 permanent qualities which are called sifat lazima, like lazim, right? Lazima. So we have sifat, you divide them to lazima and arida. Right, if you go back, arida. Yeah. Yes, yeah. Lazima and arida. Permanent, temporary. And then you divide permanent, there are 17, you divide them into mutadadda and ghayr mutadadda. Mutadadda like did, right? Did or zid, right? Did means opposite. You have an opposite of something. So out of the 17, and this will become clear when I explain them, but just for organization, out of the 17 you have 10 which are in pairs. 10 are pairs. There's 5 pairs. So 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. That equals 10. And then you have 7 other qualities which they don't come in pairs. That's a good suggestion. I'll make that, inshallah. Yeah. Yes. Inshallah, after we go through, I'll make a tree and it'll be. Yes. Inshallah, jazakallah khair for that. Um, yes, okay. It'll become clear when we go through them. For the mutadadda, every letter in Arabic has to have one or the other. So you have one pair, it has to be one or the other. And then the second pair has to be one or the other. And it cannot be both. So that becomes clear when we go through the first pair. Hams and Jahar. Okay? These are the first 2 qualities we're going to talk about. This is a pair. One quality or one attribute, sifa, is Hams. Its opposite is Jahar. So every letter in Arabic, it either will be one of them, but it cannot be both. And it has to be one. So all the letters that have Hams, they do not have Jahar. All the letters that have Jahar, they do not have Hams. Jahri. Jahri. So Jahri, yes, the reason why it's called Jahri, Jahar means what? Like loud. Yeah, force or loud. Like we say Jahri, Jahri namaz, Sirri namaz, right? Those prayers which you pray out loud. And then Hams. So Hams means whisper. وَخَشَعَتِ الْأَصْوَاتُ لِلرَّحْمَنِ فَلَا تَسْمَعُ إِلَّا هَمْسًا. All the voices will become quiet and submit to, yes. Yeah, just like very quiet, like just like whisper. Or, you know, when people are talking, whispering to each other, you just hear like hums, like yes. So hums, what does hums mean? It means the flowing of air, like breath. The breath flows through the makhraj. Some letters, when you say them, breath comes out, the air flows out. Other letters, when you pronounce them, your mouth is, the makhraj is tight together. So air cannot escape through that. Yes, this is the, you can say, mnemonic or the, yes. So these are the letters, fa, ha, tha, ha, sheen, kha, sad, sin, kaf, and ta. And you can memorize it by these. Yes, exactly. Yeah, qutubu jadin, that's for qalqala, this is for hams. فَحَثَّهُ شَخْصٌ سَكَتْ. Yeah, I should have put the haraka so that'll be clear. But how to pronounce it is فَحَثَّهُ. Yes, فَحَثَّهُ. And then شخصٌ, right? شخص, person. سَكَت, to be quiet, yes. فَحَثَّهُ شَخْصٌ سَكَت. So these 10 letters have hams. That means how many have jahar? No, sorry. So out of all the Arabic letters, how many there are? 28 or 29, depending on the count. We'll say 28 letters. Yeah, 28 letters. So if out of 28, 10 have hams, how many have jahar? 18. Yeah. So 10 letters have hams, all the other letters have jahar. So we don't have a mnemonic or a phrase to memorize the jahar. Some books mention them, but since it's longer, it's easier to make a key to memorize the fewer ones, right? So فَحَثَّهُ شَخْصٌ سَكَتْ. If you memorize this, these are all the letters that have hams. All the other letters have jahar. So for example, right, let's do like the first one, fa. If you hold it, then you will feel air or breath coming out. Right? F. كل نفس. كل نفس. Actually, one helpful key to pronounce letter or get the attributes and the makhraj is to hold it like shadda, mushaddad. F. There you can feel the breath coming out, right? So if you don't put enough airflow, then you won't hear the fa fully. You'll be like F. You won't hear it fully. You need to hear that. So one common mistake is when you're saying words that have fa with a sukoon, to not hold it enough. So you don't hear it, like kullu nafsin. It almost seems like you're saying the sin, no fa, right? Kullu nafsin. You want to hold it. Kullu nafsin. Now you hear the fa. So you hear the hams. Same thing with ha, for example. إذا جاء نصر الله والفتح والفتح. Right? The air is flowing out of the makhraj. Ha, right? Ah. Yes, yeah. Or, في أحسن تقويم. ثا. يوم يكون الناس كالفراش المبثوث. مبثوث. And likewise for the other letters you can have a similar example. منفوش, right? منفوش. أشهد. خا. See, خا. Many native English speakers, they have trouble with the kha, right? What is that? They're not able to pronounce enough hams. So for kha, they just say ka, right? Like, yeah, right? Kan or can or kan, right? They don't say kha. Kha is a combination of hams and another sifa we'll talk about. So people who are not familiar with the letter kha, or language, they speak languages which don't have kha, they will not have this quality. This is the quality. One of the qualities which enables someone to pronounce kha. Right? Pressurizing it. And then again, for all these you need to pressurize it. For fa, nafs, pressurize the makhraj. You pressurize the makhraj properly, you create the sifa. Then you can hear the letter. Otherwise, if you go to the makhraj, but you don't give the sifa, it will not be the same letter. Right? You go to the makhraj of the kha, but you say like ka, or like ka, right? It's not the same letter anymore. Or like أبوك يخلق, يخلق ما يشاء ويختار, اختيار, مخلوق, خلق, صاد, اهدنا الصي, same thing with seen. If you hold it, air is flowing out. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. المستقيم. Next is kaf. Kaf is a letter you may not think that has hams, right? Because when you hold it, you can't pronounce it. Right? If you hold it, the makhraj is tight. That means your tongue is touching the upper part of your back of your mouth, and it's tight, so the air is not flowing. But when you, for example, do a sukoon, you'll hear it. What's the example? Like for example, alayk. If you just were to stop there, alayk. If you don't pronounce the hams, it'll sound like alayk. Alayk. You don't hear it. So you want to hear it. That means you let some air flow out. Alayk. Or afillahi shak. Right? Yeah, that's for qaf. Yeah. For qaf, if you have sukoon, how do you hear it? And qaf. Qalqala, right? So you don't say haqq, you say haqqa. Qa. That's the difference. Qaf and kaf. One has qalqala, like a bounce. Because any letter that has sukoon, you need to hear it. For kaf, you don't do qalqala. You don't say alayka, K, right? You say alayk, you hear it through hams. For qaf, it doesn't have hams. So when you're stopping on it, we'll get to more detail in qalqala. When you're stopping on it, if it doesn't have hams, how can you hear it? By giving qalqala. Right? Haqqa, qa. For example, and kaf also, you don't want too much hams when you're pronouncing with the fatha or dhamma, right? Like ki, or kasra even, like kitab. You don't want to say like ki, not too much. Ki, kitab, right? Ki. قُلْ يَا أَيُّهَا الْكَافِرُونَ. Ka. Not too much, right? Not like ka. In English, we kind of say that, right? Like cat, but it's more silent. Ka, ka, ku, ki, ak. And then ta is similar, right? When you stop on the ta, for example, tabbat. If you don't let the air flow, you won't hear the letter ta. Tabbat, right? If you close your eyes, tabbat, you don't hear ta. When you give hams, then you hear it. Tabbat, tabbat. أكالون سماعون للكذب أكالون للسحت. كتبت أيديهم كتبت. This is even if it's the middle of the ayah. Right? You need to hear the ta. For example, yaktubun. You have kaf. Yak, you have to almost give it like a split second, so you pronounce the hams, then say yaktubun. So you hear every single letter clearly. If you don't do that, it'll be yaktubun. You don't hear kaf. Yaktubun. Almost like you're skipping the kaf completely. Yaktubun. Yaktubun. Now, is this clear? Any question about hams? Right? It's just air coming out. Different than sound. Sound coming out is a different sifa. We're just focusing on the air. Because, for example, kaf, when you hold it, there's no sound coming out, right? Ak. If you try to hold it and try to pronounce it, sound is not coming out, but air is coming out. Ak. And same thing with ta. Tabbat. If you hold it, you won't hear sound, you'll hear air. Tabbat. Tabbat. Now, all the other letters have jahar, which I've listed here. Is the opposite, the absence of air or the absence of breath flowing out from the makhraj. So hamza, right? There's no the breath coming out. Ba, right? Tabbat, ba, tabba. Focusing on the ba in the same ayah. Tabbat yada abi lahabin wa tabb. You don't say like, for example, iyyaka na'budu, boo. You don't say boo. Don't let the air come out. Boo. It's boo. Same thing with dal. You don't say boo do. Do. You keep it without air. Do. Iyyaka na'budu. Yes. If you pronounce ba with too much air, it'll sound like boo, or even like almost like a letter P. Because P is like almost same makhraj as ba, right? Ba, but there's more air coming out. Pa. Jim. Jim. Right? If you give it hams, it'll sound like cha, which I was saying in the beginning of the class. Don't let jim have air. If you give it air, it'll become a different letter. It'll sound more like cha, like al-masjid. It's not al-masj, cha, al-masj, al-masjid. Right? Al-hajj instead of al-hajj. Al-hajj. Ja. Some of these letters, for example, dhal. If you hold dhal, you can hear it. There's sound, but there's no air. Right? وَالذَّارِيَاتِ ذَرْوَا. So there is sound coming out, but it's not air. If you put air, it'll sound more like tha, like wath. Right? The difference between tha, right, dal, dhal, and the difference between tha. Tha has hams, right? If you go back, فَحَثَّهُ. Right, let's take a moment to focus on dhal and tha and dha. They have the same makhraj, remember? Tha, dhal, dha, same makhraj. This is where they're different. They're different because tha has hams. So you say like mabathuth, and dhal has jahar. It doesn't have hams. So the sound comes out, but there's no air. If you added air, it would become tha. Is that clear? That's why knowing the sifat are important. You're identifying how the letters in the same makhraj have a different sound. How is that possible? Through the sifat. Za, إذا زلزلت. Za has same makhraj as which letters? Sin and Sad, right? So for example, Za and Sa, as, same makhraj. If you really try to focus on where the tongue is, where the teeth are, they're the same position. As, right? As, and as, right? Z, like ziyara, Z. That's different, yeah. Same makhraj. One, you are giving hams. You're letting the air flow out. So it turns out to become a sin. As. When you stop that air from flowing out, it becomes za. As. Yeah. Dad. Wala da. When you say wala da, there's no air coming out. If you give air, it'll sound more like Z, right? Wala da. Instead of wala or something like that. Wala da. Ta, that's easier to understand, right? Idina sirata, you don't give hams like ta, right? Ta. Dha, same thing like dha. Dha, dha. Dha, if you give it air, it would sound like heavy tha, like tha. Remove the air. Dha. Ayn, ghayn. Let's look at the difference between ghayn and kha. Same makhraj, right? Kha and ghayn, which is the top of the throat. What's the difference? Kha has hams, so it becomes kh. But in the same makhraj, if you remove the air, it becomes gh, right? Maghdubi. Agh and akh. Agh and akh. Same makhraj. One has hams, air, one does not. Qaf, I already mentioned, right? If you give air, qa, right? Or like haqq, haqqa, or qa, right? Ul, it doesn't have air, like kul, or like kul, ul. Yeah, ka'san dihaqa. Lam, mim, noon, right? All of these, it's very difficult to pronounce them with air anyway. They don't have air. And waw and ya. Waw also, like wa. There's no air coming out, like wa, wa. And iyyaka, right? Iyyaka na'budu. Okay. Any question about hams and jahar? These are kind of closely related to the next pair, shidda and rakhawa. So out of the 17, we're focusing first on the 10 opposites. So we did 2, it was 1 pair. We have 4 more pairs, which will equal 8. So the next one is shidda and rakhawa. Like shiddat, right? And rakhawa, shiddat is like strength, right? Or sturdy, or force. And rakhawa means to be smooth or soft. So some letters are soft and some letters are hard. What that means is the sound comes out or it does not come out. For example, when you have a sukoon or shadda. So this is also another way to memorize the letters of shidda. Shidda means when you hold it, the sound is not coming out. So for example, Jim, wal hajj. If you were to give it rakhawa or keep the sound flowing, it's not wal hajj, right? And people pronounce Jim like that sometimes. But you don't want to give it that when you recite the Quran. You don't want to give it the continuing flow of the sound. وَأَتِمُّ الْحَجَّ instead of hajja. If you were to give it rakhawa, if you to make it soft, it would sound like hajja. You want to make it hard, so hajja. When you give it a shadda, it's almost like a pause in the sound. Like tabbat yada. Tabbat, almost a pause in the ba. tabbat, right? For the ba, you hear like almost like a pause. Tabbat. Yeah, because it's a hard letter. It's a strong letter. So the 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 lips are closed so that if you try to pronounce it flowing, it won't come out. The sound doesn't come out. Tabbat. Qaf, right? Al-haqqah. Instead of, if you give it rakhawa, it will sound almost like a kha, right? That's what happens actually. When you pronounce qaf softly, it becomes kha. Al-haqqa, almost like that. You want to give it shiddat. Al-haqqah. Pause in the sound. Yeah, we did ba. Yeah, kaf. Right? For example, سماعون للكذب أكالون. أكالون. Hamza, kaf, akka. So you don't hear it like akha, akha, akka. And same thing with ta. التائبون. التائبون العابدون الحامدون. التائبون. When you hold it, sound does not come out. And you memorize it by saying ajid. It's ajid, qatin, bakat. The previous one was فحثه شخص سكت. And inshallah, I'll send the slides, I'll update the harakat so you can memorize them. This is ajid, qatin, bakat. So how many letters are there of shiddah? Yes, 8, right? 8. So the rest 20 have rakhawa. Almost 20. There's some detail I will add. Yeah. I'll add some detail. Here's rakhawa. Rakhawa means flowing of the sound through the makhraj. So for example, right, tha. Tha has rakhawa, and what other attribute we just talked about? Hams, right? So far we know tha has rakhawa and hams. That means the breath flows and the sound flows for tha, both. The breath flows and the sound flows. So you pronounce tha, tha. Mabathuth. When you say mabathuth, you have both air and the sound. But for example, like the, which one does it have? Does it have air flowing out, sound, or both, or neither? Like for example, وَالذَّارِيَاتِ. So, yeah, is jahar. So no air coming out, but it has rakhawa, so the sound comes out. So sound comes out without air. وَالذَّارِيَاتِ. Same thing with za, seen, both, right? من المس. الشيطان من المس. So both air and sound are coming. And all these are right. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. The صاد. اهدنا الصي. Dad. This is important. Dad, the sound is flowing. So when you hold it, you should hear a sound. As opposed to dal, right? Dal is one of these other ajid. Dal has shiddat. But dad has rakhawa. So for walad dalin, it should not be silent. You should hear it. Walad da. Yeah, that's letter dal. Yeah, dakhili. Minad dakhilin. So if you, yeah, so this is a good comparison. You have dal has shiddah. So if you say minad dakhilin, there's a slight pause. You can't hear it. Minad dakhilin. But for dad, it has rakhawa. So when you hold it, you will hear it. غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين instead of ولا الضا. That there's no rakhawa there. You don't hear it. ولا الضا. ولا الضا. It takes pressure at the right makhraj. Right? Dad has a long makhraj. It's almost like the sound is going from the back of the teeth and to the front. So you spend a little time holding it. غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. And dha, ghain, fa. See all these letters? You have to spend a little time. Spend a little time to pronounce it. غير المغضوب instead of maghdub, right? Maghdubi, maghdubi. Yes. No, this is going back to what I mentioned. Yeah, that's the next sifa. How do you make it heavy? You make it heavy by doing something else, not the lips. And then fa also, right? Kullu nafsin, same thing. It has flowing of the air from hams and has flowing of the sound. So that means when you hold it, the sound continues. Kullu nafsin, kullu nafsin dha'iqatul maut. Right? Ta, you hear the hams. Maut. Kullu nafsin. Especially for the word nafs. Yeah, if you notice, many people, they don't hold the fa. You want to hold the fa separated from the sin. Kullu nafsin. Yes. So we said there are 8 letters of shiddah. And that leaves you with how many letters? 20, right? So how many letters are here? 15. So we're missing 5 letters. And which are the 5 letters? The remaining 5 letters are in between these two qualities. They're in between shiddah and rakhawa. So what does that mean? It means shiddah means that the sound is not flowing. Rakhawa means the sound flows. Between it is, we call bayniya, like bayna, right? Bayna means in between in Arabic. Or tawassut. Tawassut is from wasat, means in the middle. So this is not an extra quality, it's actually a quality which is in between these two qualities. So 5 letters are in between these two qualities because the sound flows, but it flows not from the makhraj. It flows because of a different reason or a different path. What those letters are? Lam, Noon, Ayn, Mim, Ra. You can memorize it by saying Lin Umar. Lin Umar, right? Lam, Noon, Ayn, Mim, Ra. So for example, if you hold these letters, you'll hear it, but the sound is not coming from the makhraj. And we don't really have the time to get into exactly where the sound is coming from, but I can mention a few examples. For example, Noon. When you hold it, you hear something, right? Inna. Inna. When you hold the noon, what's the makhraj? When you hear the sound, inna. What is the sound, first of all, that's coming out? Gunna. So when you hold it, where's the makhraj? The nose, right? The khayshum. So this is where the khayshum comes in. In order to hear the noon, because the makhraj of the noon is not the nose. Makhraj of the noon is the tongue, remember? Makhraj of the noon is the tongue touching upper palate. But if you hold it, the sound goes from the tongue all the way up to the nose, and then you can hear it. So that's why it's not considered fully rakhawa. Rakhawa means the sound flows from the makhraj. In between shiddah and rakhawa means the sound flows, but it flows from elsewhere. Here, it moves to the nose and you can hear it. Same thing with mim. Mim makhraj is the lips. When you hold it, like amma. When you hold it, it goes up to the nose. Goes from the lips. Amma. That's why they are called in between. Yeah. Yeah. عَمَّ يَتَسَاءَلُونَ. Same thing with عين. Um, yes. Or even for example in Surah Fatiha, إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ. So it's not a full stop. It's not like na'budu. It's not a pause. Na'budu. It's you hear it. Iyyaka na'budu. Na'budu. There are kind of two ways to pronounce ayn. Some qurra, some qaris, they pronounce it a little bit lighter. They say na'budu. Iyyaka na'budu. Right? And some make it a little stronger, but still you'll hear it. The entire time you're pronouncing it, you hear it. Iyyaka na'budu. Yes, it's like almost like a stretch. Not too long. It's just when you have sukoon, you sukoon means like you're resting, right? So you're stopping there, you're resting there, but you're still pronouncing it. Iyyaka na'budu. It's not really rolling. It's just flowing. Yeah, the flowing of the sound. That's the same thing. So it's na'ama. You hear it. Na'ama. You don't pause. Na'ama. You say na'ama. Like fa'alun lima yurid. So not oh yeah, I know what you mean. The shadda, the symbol. Yeah, that is a shadda, the letter, the symbol, the haraka shadda. So that's shadda, but this is the quality shidda. Don't get confused. They're two different things. You hear this symbol is a shadda. The symbol like fatha, dhamma, kasra, sukoon, shadda. Shadda means there's two letters, right? Like fa'alul lima yurid. You combine the two ayns, fa'al or inna. This shidda is a quality of the letters which is opposite of rakhawa. Yeah. So it can be a little confusing. But for example, the ayn, when you give it a shadda, fa'a, you still hear it. Fa'a, you can hear the ayn, right? Fa'a, you're not pausing. Same thing. Yes. Na'amahu. Right? Na'amahu. You hear it. Na'amahu. And same thing with the ra. Ra here. Bismillahir-rah. You don't pause. Hirrah. 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 And this is the rolling. Slight rolling. So the rolling, it enables you to continue pronouncing the ra. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. So again, ra, the sound flows from it, but it doesn't flow from the makhraj. It flows from the ra, like vibrates. The tongue vibrates, so it rolls almost, so it creates that sound. It's different than the other letters of rakhawa, like fa. Fa, the sound flows from the same makhraj. The, right, flows from the same makhraj. Da flows from the same makhraj. So to review this, shidda, these letters, ajid qatim bakat, the 8 letters. Rakhawa, 15 letters. In between shidda and rakhawa, you have these 5 letters. No, because it's all of these letters. I mean, some books do give mnemonic for the others as well, but yeah, it's you do process of elimination. Right? If you remember shidda, you remember bayniya. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, same thing for hams and jahar. Hams, you say فَحَثَّهُ شَخْصٌ sakat. The rest are jahar. Yeah, if you'd like, I can bring the mnemonics. They have them. They're long though, right? They're a bit longer. So sometimes people find it easier to just a process of elimination. Okay, alhamdulillah. So we did 4 sifat. The remaining ones are not too difficult. So inshallah we'll finish those next week. So we'll stop here for now. If I begin the next, it'll take quite a bit of time. Yeah, so just yeah, I think once we go through all the sifat, for example, you had a question about difference between the and dha, right? So once we do those, once we get all of the sifat down, makhraj, then I think we'll have a better understanding for practice, inshallah. Inshallah. Any other questions specific to these qualities? No? Okay, inshallah, I will send the slides. I'll fix those. I'll send the slides, and we'll meet next week. Jazakallah khairan. Yeah.